Welcome back to the Electrify podcast, brought to you by the creators of Electrify Expo, North America's largest EV festival, coming to a major city near you. We're talking haircuts and we're talking EV and electrification. And again, I teased it and I knew I had it lined up. My man, Vaughn Gittin Jr., two-time Formula Drift champion, winner in China, Ultra 4, and winner at life. He is the ultimate fun haver, the professional fun haver, creator of RTR. And I said, and I'll say it again, a modern day Carroll Shelby of a new generation. Again, no disrespect to anybody before and therefore after. But I think, Vaughn, what you've accomplished in your short time, and 20 years doesn't sound like a short time, but it is. And what I think is even crazier is there's just so much unknown out there that you're ready to traverse. Either it be in an Ultra 4, is that going to get EV'd? Obviously drift cars, you coming back and winning the only round you compete in Formula Drift, big flex right there. But we got to start first and foremost, and that's what we tease, the Mach E 1400. Modern day Carroll Shelby, because here's Shelby, who came and went and helped Ford. Here's you given this chassis that is the Mach E and says, you're going to be the first to customize this iconic automobile manufacturer and you get to modify this thing. How big of an opportunity was that to you, and how big of a responsibility is that for you and your team?
Well, thank you for the intro, my friend. I appreciate that. I'm excited to be here with you talking about the fun. Congrats on your new gig. It's pretty cool.
Thanks, man.
I believe electrification needs some excitement and dynamic personality, and I think you're a great fit for it. So thank you. Yeah, so the Mach E 1400, holy crap, what a project.
Yeah.
Ray, our technical director, said it best. He said, for someone, this being their 10th EV build would be crazy. This being your first EV build is insanity. And that was our first EV build. So, that project came about a little bit different. It wasn't like they're like, hey, here's a chassis, want you to do something. It was more like, I obviously knew that electrification is very much on the horizon. I mean, this car is now almost 4 years old. We started building
it. It's been that long?
Yeah.
No way. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think we built that. When did COVID start? 19, 20?
20.
So we got that car in 19. That's when it started dreaming. In fact, I did my pitch video on the trailer that I was sending to Ford in St. Louis in like 2018, 2019.
There you go.
So anyway, so I just had this vision. I'm like, look, no one's making electric exciting. Like, they're just building cars, talking about the, eco-ness of it. And I'm just like, man, it just needs to be shown in like a fun, sexy way. Like, we need to show it exciting. And like, I'm from IT. I love technology. I'm a computer nerd. And like, my brain has just been spinning with like the art of the possible with this much power and this much control that you can get with electric vehicles. And so, I hung out with Jim Farley at Woodward, and we just kind of talked. We were just kind of brain jamming on EV.
For those that don't know, who is Jim Farley and why is that a big deal?
Well, Jim Farley is the CEO of Ford.
Yeah, that's just to clarify for people.
And Farley and I have been at Ford around the same time. I was there a bit sooner, but like as we got into like Octane Academy in the time when it was myself and Ken and Deegan and Tanner all over at Ford. That's roughly when Jim had come in, and we hit it off and have a great relationship, from his various progression through the company. And we were just brain jamming at Woodward dreaming at Woodward Dream Cruise,
Go figure.
And was just inspiring conversation that, I had ideas, he had some ideas, and it just sparked this vision. And I basically went to Ford with this concept of a car an electric vehicle that could drift, could gymkhana, all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, road race, hill climbs, you name it, a demonstrator to show electric in a fun way that no one's done before. And And basically, that vision, when I sat down with Ford Performance and presented it, was very along the wavelength that they were on, and they wanted to create something like this, and they believed that we were a partner that could get it done, and they put their trust in RTR and my team to build what would become the first performance demonstrator that Ford had ever, come to market with. And it was a crazy undertaking. COVID hit us right in the middle of it. Supply became a problem, but we just powered through and made this thing dance.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were at the first video project when we
Yeah.
brought the car out. All plans were destroyed because of the pandemic that was going on. I mean, me and 6 of our guys rented an RV to come out and run it. It was just it was just everything about it was crazy, right? Like
you're basically like astronauts, right? Because you're kind of getting ready. You're ready to go. Oh, we can't launch. We can't launch. Nope. You got to park it. And then okay, well, and then obviously worldwide epidemic happens, and then it's like, okay, well, you got to go cross country. You got to what are we doing here? And first of all, you're trusting the shuttle, but then you're trusting your team and your mindset and all these things, all these components coming together, and yeah, that first, it was cool, man. It was, the future was now, like seeing that car.
And I'll never forget, like during our test sessions, there's one moment that stands out so much of our testing, where we got the car out of the shop finally, right? And we've got this, I mean, the car could not be seen. We got this, very private test facility, and there was a leak, but we went to this very private test facility, and we got the car out, and we were doing our warm-up runs and just like testing and make sure all systems were go. And then it was time for full power. And I'm like, ooh, the moment I've been dreaming of, And we go out there, and Ray, technical director, he's in the passenger seat with his laptop watching everything. And I'm driving. And I'm like, dude, this ain't it. I hit the gas, and I was like, this is not it. Tell me this is not it. This is not full power, because we failed. Because it was bad. It was like
you already knew. You're like, oh man.
It was like, it couldn't get out of its own way. And I'm like, I feel the power, but it's not fast. So we go back in and we look at some stuff, and we found one parameter that, like, he's like, oh, I think this will fix it. So, and I'm just like, I'm sad in this moment. And then he's like, all right, are you ready? I'm like, are you ready? And he's like, yep. And I floor it. And dude, this freaking thing lights off, and it's just like a magnetic roller coaster. And I'm just like, I stopped. As hard as I accelerated, as hard as I stopped. And I'm like, is this okay? Because, internal combustion.
You don't want to break it.
Well, we're laughing like little kids because it was so gnarly. So we're like laughing. I'm like, Ray, is it okay? Because like in internal combustion vehicles, sometimes it's really good till it's not, because it's too lean and it's making a ton of power, and then it blows up. So like that default came in. I'm like, something's wrong here. And it was good. And then it was like, holy crap, we've got an animal. And so, so that was just one moment of that vehicle that was such a, one of our first test days out of the lab, and I get to feel it full power for the first time. And it was just freaking nuts. It was nuts.
And that's, I'm going to segue and jump out of it, because of, you called it the lab, and I know like Mad Mike has his lab, and it seems that that's kind of what a lot of people are calling their areas or their spaces. But I think it's very befitting for you to call it the lab, because you're not just racing, you're developing. And I think that's what's a compliment to you and your team at RTR. Here you are in Formula Drift, still developing, even down to having James Dean in the first right-hand drive, all new Ford Mustang, all of those little facets. Kudos to you for making a lab and not just a race shop. And that speaks to progression. And I know you're a proponent of that. And that's why I think you're a good fit for Ford to tap and say like, hey, let's try this with Vaughn. We're going to cut into this, but here's drifting, what you got laughed at. We got laughed at, right? And it's like, it's a fad, it's this. And then now fast forward to you and Chris and all of our peers, and Turk and, Osbo, these guys are spokespeople. They're manufacturers spokespeople. And you're part of that crew, that alumni, these pioneers, if I may. You've created a lab, not just a shop.
Yeah, and you're absolutely. I mean, what we do here is engineering, design, and development. And yes, we race. Our race cars are never the same event to event. It's a constant progression. They're constantly under the microscope. All of our RTR vehicles, all of our products, the test fitting, the trial and error of prototyping. That's what we're doing here. Like, we're literally a laboratory of sorts. And I didn't think calling it a shop, the RTR race shop, I didn't feel like that did us justice. So thank you for noticing, Jarod.
Yeah, dude. I mean, come on. I'm trying to be omnipresent in everybody's world, and that just again, Mad Mike has his Mad Lab, and I think he's still playing with Doritos over there, but people love it, and I love it, and I think you love it too. I mean, deep down, I mean, rising tide lifts all ships, and that's what Electrify and Electrify Expo, which the Mach E1400 is present at. Colette Davis is out there ripping it around. I saw that, and hopefully, we'll see Ford activate at all the previous, future ones. There's Electrify Expo, DC, Austin. I mean, check the schedule. I'm looking to make it out to one, if not more, Electrify Expo festivities. But again, back to your kind of lineage. You talked about you being an IT. Maybe talk to that, because there was a great Super Street article, the visual of almost like The Office, of you smashing your computer, or Office Space, excuse me, the movie, you smashing it. That was metaphorical. It was literal. And it speaks to you coming from this hustle side previous, because let's be honest, you like to cause trouble when you were a kid, and then you progressed and got into IT, and you utilized your inquisitiveness for good, and then you smash the computer, but you're still applying that kind of thirst for knowledge and that thirst for progression.
Yeah, no, I was, when so my path to IT was, I was that generation that like had easy access to the internet, right? Me and you were that first generation that like, I was 12, 13 years old and I could build a computer. Like my parents were like, what? A motherboard? What are you talking about?
Come on down to Radio Shack.
Yeah, and it was very natural for me, just like my son is going to be a genius at a touchscreen. He's 4 years old and he can, navigate. We keep very healthy boundaries. I just want to put it out there. It's very important. Yeah. But so we're that generation. So I had this like built-in talent of computers. And so I call it a car drug habit. I just love cars my whole life. I love cars. And when I was in high school, it kind of became those moments of like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And there was all the Microsoft ads, make $75,000 a year, Microsoft certified, MCSE. So I was like, I'm going to get into computers because I'm good at it. And it'll be good money for me to be able to support my car drug habit. And so I went to college for a year and a half. And like, I was like, I hate math and science. I hate it so much. But because I was in school for information systems, they made you take science and math. And I was like, I hated it. So I just went to the test center and got Microsoft certified at 18 years old. Left there and I was working at a company called Netcom, where I would bring in a T1, which is a high-powered, well, back in the day was a high-powered, it was 1.4 megabytes per second. And then I would
blazing.
Yeah, blazing fast. You guys got, we got cable modems now doing a gig. But anyway, and so I would bring that in, and then I would propagate that throughout communities with a wireless network. And then every house would basically pull off of that T1. And anyway, I was doing that for a while. And then I went and got doing a job. I was setting up a point-to-point connection. And basically that guy hired me. And now I was a network admin. And then after like 6 months, they fired him and gave me his job. So I was 21 running the IT of a $100 million a year economic consulting firm. I had one guy that worked under me. And I was way underqualified for this position. However,
Fake it till you
However,
make it. Fake it till you make it, baby.
I was very resourceful, and Google was my friend, and I made it work, and I killed it and just saved the company a ton of money. Did a great job with their IT, and they were very cool with me, like letting me leave work early to go drifting and things like that. And then ultimately, I quit that job, and that was the representation you're talking about of me smashing the computer. I remember that shoot vividly, and I still remember being like, "Oh God, should I do this?" So,
I
I'm walking
remember
away.
we had this conversation. Like I remember, early days, like 2004, you, me, Tony, and Chris talking about, a future and me helping you guys with like a Rockford Fosgate sponsorship. And it was,
Yeah,
pennies on the dollars now. But like I said, I have to incorporate the word hustle into it
yeah,
because, here back to the astronaut thing too. Those are pioneers. There's people that are, you know, not robbing Peter to pay Paul, but hustling to get where they're at. And I think you're a great success story. And it's not even, I feel like your cup is not even halfway full, man. Like it just, obviously one being a dad and, you and your lovely bride, Abby, and you kind of have this newfound granola meets combustion meets EV. I mean, you have this really good all encapsulating brand, and you and your wife go on these journeys and you kind of have a granola side to you now. Early on, just being from Joplin, Maryland. Yeah, you like crab cakes and you like Old Bay and little
yeah.
salts of the earth.
I would,
But I feel like you have a newfound granola vibe to you.
yeah. Interesting. Um,
Do you like
yeah, I
that or
would.
no?
I'll take it. Yeah, I don't really know like how to take granola. Like, I definitely, my wife has definitely opened up a, she's a way shower, and I think through a lot of our relationship, like she's you know, engage me in new things that
Yeah,
she likes. And so, she's there's definitely been a new spiritual side that's opened up.
I love it.
I enjoy yoga. I enjoy mindfulness. I think that I understand how, this life works and manifestation and just in general, uh, you know, vibration and energy, So I think if that's what you mean,
Yeah,
that is what you mean
yeah,
by that side. Absolutely. I think I think that has just kind of come along with my progression. And then obviously those that I've surrounded myself with, and moving here to Charlotte, there's actually just a really amazing social awakening going on in that kind of, in that space. So, that's been really cool to start to kind of dabble in that and understand how that applies to like the everyday and what I do, and like looking back at my success and the things I've achieved, and understanding that maybe it wasn't just the hard work and it wasn't just the logical things, and there's a little bit more work. But I don't know that we're going to go down a spiritual route
no, no,
in
not
this
not at all.
podcast. We want to talk about electrification.
I only say this because people. I want to challenge kind of the norm, and that's what EV does. Is
Yeah,
it's kind of a scary unknown world, and for people that might be listening to this podcast, I'm listening to Vaughn Gittin Jr. Woo, and like, woo, woo. I want to kind of
yeah,
expose you a little bit
sure,
because of your thirst for knowledge and your thirst to be a student. And people might put you on a pedestal, and that's absolutely respectful of all the accolades that you've accomplished. But I think you're still, that's where I'm trying to get to, is you still have this thirst for the unknown. and
yeah,
that and that's where we're at, this electrify concept and EV. And
yeah,
and again, this just isn't about cars, it's about
sure,
e-bikes, one wheels. And I know you and your cousin Cody are always like, hey dude, check this thing out, look at this
yeah.
thing, like, look, right? You guys are always kind of
I,
like, bro, have you seen like what you can hack this and do that, and like, and
I,
that's that thirst that I really like.
yeah, and I, so like the biggest thing for me is like, a lot of people have been like, oh, you're drinking the Kool-Aid, EV ain't it? Ford must be paying you millions of dollars to say you like electric cars. I'm like, yo, my daily is a Mach-E GT. Find me any day, or my
Chelsea
Lightning.
too. Chelsea Denofa, your teammate, he's got a
Yeah,
Mach-E.
and like, but here's the thing, right? For me, it's I love experience, and being behind the wheel is something that I love, and the EV is very new. and it's fresh and it's a completely different feeling than we've ever felt. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I love taking my Spec 5 out or my Bronco. Like, I'm not just like EV only, but I'm like, it's available. I enjoy it. Like, my perspective right now of EV, if you are a 2 vehicle family, there is zero reason not to have an EV. My car takes $8 to fill up. Not that I'm like pinching pennies counting gas, but like, that's just cool. Like,
Yeah.
and I floor it all the time because it doesn't matter, because it's $8 to get me 280 miles of range. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. So to go back to, the people's perspective of me when I started doing electrification stuff, they're like, they think it's all just like me, just like falling in the agenda. But like, no, this is like something I'm extremely passionate about. Like, think about if you were alive when the internal combustion engine came to fruition,
Mm-hmm.
and you were like one of the first to try that out. Like, that's not possible, but this is. You know what I mean? Like, we're at the like very early. Like, this is literally like Henry Ford with sweepstakes. Like, this is like, 1902 or whatever the year is right now, with when it comes to like the ability and how we can progress the electrification side. Look, I personally don't believe internal combustion engines are going anywhere. I don't believe that we're on like this preface of like this complete replacement and the robots are going to be driving us and we'll have no choice, right? Like, I believe we're always going to have a choice, and we're always going to be able to decide what suits our lifestyle and what it is that we need. And electrification is extremely exciting in that, because if your lifestyle is that you really don't need to go more than 200-300 miles a day, you like power, and you like the dynamics of an electric vehicle, there's no reason not to choose it. I've never, and everyone's like, oh, but the sound. Well, I've never been driving an electric vehicle and been like, oh, I wish this had sound. It's just different. Like, and I'm not saying I don't want it to have sound. The Mach-E has speakers, and I like that sound experience. I like the option for the sound experience, but I also love getting home on a red eye and jumping in my Mach-E GT and telling it to drive me home. That's pretty damn cool too. So it's like, I'm grateful that I'm able to have the best of both worlds and be a multiple vehicle owner. But one of my most exciting things is like watching naysayers get flipped.
Absolutely.
I let so many people drive my car and take people for rides, and the Mach-E 1400, like you said, that thing's constantly out campaigning to just give people another perspective. And like, aside from just the EV technology, it's like all the other digital technology that is starting to come along with these types of vehicles, and the amount of control that you can have over the traction system or the power output system, or the way you can use regen, not just to charge batteries, but to lock rear brakes. And like, they're just so like the realm of the possible is what excites me. I'm not, do I like the earth and do I want it to, be a better place? Absolutely. Am I convinced that, gas vehicles are hurting that? No. Am I convinced that EV is the answer to that? No. But what I am convinced is that EV is extremely fun and there's a use for it. And fun havers like myself are just starting to begin with the art of possible.
Given respect where respect is due, right? You're kind of like there's a progression that, I mean, we all have, computers in our pocket with our phones. We don't cut into half the capabilities of that. So even if we just use a percentage of the EV technology that's being implemented widely available between Mach-E and other manufacturers right across the board, from Rivian, Tesla, and Canoo, and all these other manufacturers, the speed, the performance, all of that excitement as you describe, and that's what you are, the professional fun haver and building RTR. For those that don't know, RTR stands for Ready to Rock, and this is for a new generation of Ford tuning, not exclusive to Ford Mustangs, but F-150s, Broncos, I mean, you name it. And of course, the Mach-E. So I think it's a great compliment for you and where you're at. Are we going to see you compete in maybe like nitrocross? Have you talked about that? The FC1X and that electric vehicle. I'd love to get Ford involved with that. They just at Goodwood Festival of Speed, they just debuted the Mach E Rally, which is going to compete in WRC. That's a great endeavor. That car looks sick. Don't know if you have any information on that. Do you? I don't know. A lot of questions.
um, I don't. I have. I mean,
Travis is knocking on your door. He's like, Vaughn, come play. You're my Maryland dog. Come on, let's
yeah,
go.
yeah. I mean, look,
Let's drive the
the
FC1X.
nitro cross does look really cool. I like what they're doing. Obviously, the track that they just built at Mid America Outdoors was nuts, and I was obviously a part of that, but not because of nitro cross, but because we want to maybe drift on it one day. That series does look fun. Right now, for me, it's all a time thing, and I'm pretty committed with what I've got going on. Would I pop in and do an event here or there? Potentially. I think it's cool, and I enjoyed talking with the owners out there, and I suggested to them that they do need a sound element to those vehicles, because when you're driving it, it's a completely different experience, right? Like there's sounds, you hear it, and it's unique. It's not a V8 screaming, but it's unique. And I think that the spectators for that particular series and EV series in general, there needs to be a sound experience. But the things that you could do with that, like there's so many different things that you could do with that sound experience. That's fun. Like the Mach-E 1400.
I was gonna get to that. Who? Yo, you had a DJ, musician, an all around extraordinaire develop your exhaust note or your. I mean, what would you call it?
Yeah, it's a sound experience, and we worked with T-Pain. And that's literally why I was late to this call, because I was finishing up a call with him and her dreaming of something else in the future.
Sick,
But
sick.
but he sorry, I was a couple minutes late, by the way. So he we put some inspiration together, and I was like, Payne, I was like, look, I think you would kill this, and here's what I want to do, and bing bang boom. So we worked with Harman, who does, the Mach-E has a propulsion sound that you can press when you're in any mode, and it gives you a unique sound experience. Well, we got two speakers, one in the front, one in the rear, and they project 1.5 miles. It's actually a weapon.
Oh, really?
It's
Yeah,
actually
it's
a
that
weapon.
sonar one, like it's old military technology.
Yeah, it's not sonar, but it's really very high frequency. It doesn't have any
Okay.
bass, but it's a military weapon that we used for not a weapon, for a sound experience. And so I gave T-Pain a lot of inspiration of sounds, and then he mixed them together. He gave it a standing sound, which is like
Like an idol.
it's
Like
kind of like a heartbeat. It's alive.
Yeah.
It's digital. Like, what is this? And then the sound of it is all of these sounds meshed together. And when it flies by you at full tilt with the sound on, it's just like, what? Like, it's unreal. It's like a jet mixed with like a Group B turbo. Like, it's nasty. And then with the aero and the whine of the motors, like the whine of the motors, it sounds so good.
It seems foreign but familiar. It seems like it's a refined kid's drawing, right? I mean, the car with the canards and the wings. And when I first saw it, again, first time I saw it was the first time Ken Block saw it, and I talked about that briefly on the first episode. Just him getting to drive it, you getting to drive Unicorn. Obviously, RTR Camp built that vehicle, but it's like, okay, it's Pikes Peak meets Group B meets drift car meets obviously WRC car, and you've done such a good job of really kind of working with Ford. I know you did work with Ford on that thing's wind tunnel tested, right? Like,
yeah, that car was a full collab with Ford. I mean, we built it all here in Charlotte, but we were, worked very closely with Ford. Ford did all the aero. So we designed what we liked as far as looks wise, and they took it and made it functional with their aero guys. That thing makes 2,350 pounds of downforce at 160 miles an hour.
Wow.
The car is unbelievable. 7 motors, 1,400 horsepower, 3 in the front, 4 in the back. We've seen 4,000 to 6,000 foot-pounds of torque at the tires, depending upon what gear ratio we have, because the car doesn't have any transmission. It's the motor stacks directly to a winner's quick change, just like we use in the Formula Drift cars. Cantilever suspension, the whole body's composite. We actually use flax the hood is made out of flax.
Oh wow.
It's like a flax composite out of flax fibers instead of like fiberglass fibers or carbon fibers. So literally grown out of the ground, get the flax fibers, and then you process it just like you would with a carbon or a fiberglass. So it was a
That's the first I've heard of that. So like flax seed, like flax
yeah,
oil, you're talking about
yeah,
that?
the fiber, yeah, the fiber from the
Wow.
flax, yeah, and
Is
it's
is that
really
being
super strong and lightweight.
is that being widely used in like other motorsports applications?
It's not. This was a material we were testing for this vehicle and like just kind of exploring for potential uses. I don't know of it being used in that in those other areas, but I don't know that it's as efficient, like whether it was like weight wise or cost wise. But from a sustainability standpoint, like it's grows out of the ground, So it's
So
pretty cool. It's held up amazing.
how did the flax fiber hold up when you hit the wall in the Faroe Islands?
Oh, it held up probably just as good as the carbon did.
And I only brought that up because obviously it happened, and what a great
I'm
experience
fine.
for
I
you.
crash stuff. It
I
happens.
know it happens, right? And I will tell you, and I think I've told you this, but I'll say it in public, is Sam Nalvin, director, right, for the project. You driving the Mach-E 1400 around Faroe Islands, and if you don't know where the Faroe Islands is, look it up. It's out there. It's a beautiful piece of the world. And first cut he showed me, I got emotional, and I was like, dude, I got emotional on so many levels. One, proud of my man Sam for showing me this little biopic piece. Two, the team, all the work that goes into it, thinking about just during COVID, right? All these elements, and that plays a major role in my life. I think about just all these different components. So, but yeah, the Faroe Islands, talk about that, because that was kind of the real debut, and it looked more of like a travel show. Seemed like you had a lot of fun,
Yeah.
but overall, that was the here it is. Like, what is it?
Yeah. Well, I think I would challenge it. I think that was our second because I think the first video that we did with Ken and Joey and Haley, which was the Mach-E
Oh yes, yes, yes. Sorry.
with all of with all the internal combustion vehicles, kind of like anything you can do, I can do. It's kind of like what that was. But then we took the
Yes.
next project was the project of Faroe Islands, which was like we call it motorsports tourism. And we basically, I mean, for those of you that haven't went to Faroe or seen Faroe Islands, uh, straight out of a movie, like everything looks like a movie set, just beautiful greenery, goats on roofs everywhere you look, and just beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful land. And yeah, we went out to shoot this video. And the first day, second location, mind you, we're in an island. There's no
Mhm.
Mach-E's on this island. There's no spare parts but what we brought on this island. And so I do this turn perfect. And they're like, oh, that was great. Let's just, let's get one more. And that's my mocking the video team. Let's just get one more here. If I got as many redos as our video team does, I wouldn't be in business. Am I right?
Oh, jeez.
Just kidding.
Shots fired.
It's a constant joke.
Absolutely.
And you gotta respect them wanting perfection too. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go a little bit faster this time, and you know, cleaned up a little bit, even though it was really perfect. I mean, one shot, one take, and so anyway, I go do it, and I went a little faster, which means I had to slow down longer. And I had the car, I was counter steered on the handbrake, slowing down, and then all of a sudden the front tires just hooked and the car darted the opposite way right into the wall. It was bad.
Well, it's panic mode, right?
Yeah, and the guy spent 24 hours following that moment getting us a car that we could complete this production. We had a headlight gotten from the UK. The team in Ford UK pulled a headlight off an engineering vehicle. We had a friend, Alvin, who was from Ireland, but actually was in the UK, went and got the headlight, got on a flight. They almost didn't let him on the flight, and he told him it was for a Transformers movie, so they let him on the flight. You should see this headlight. I mean,
Yeah.
it's this big. there's 15 computers in it and like 400 wires. And he's like, oh, carrying on an airplane. They're like,
Okay,
anyway,
guy.
he gets there. Meanwhile, so anyway, that's a 24-hour progress. So the meanwhile, we're fixing the car. The one thing we didn't have was a control arm that I bent. And these are gnarly, heat-treated, gnarly control arms. So Casper, my managing director, who's also an engineer, went to a boatyard. And there was this gnarly, like, I don't even know how many hundreds of ton press that they had to use. They had to heat this thing and press it to make it flat. Anyway, they did a bunch of stuff. The headlight still wasn't here. We got the car looking good. A good portion of that video there, the headlight is actually a printed piece of cardboard. So anyway, so now we're driving, and we're able to at least start capturing some of this video. And long story short, in 24 hours, we took a car that was on paper pretty destroyed, made it good, picture quality good, and running. And we went and made the video. The light finally got there. We got that in, and completed the mission. But there was moments in that I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to afford to do this after we have to go home right now and fix this car? And it was just one of those things, man. You take a unicorn, there's only one, there's no spares, and you risk it. And it was one of those things of the dynamics of the vehicle that I was not, I drive an internal, I'm at driving at this level. The dynamics of these types of vehicles are very different. You have a very low center of gravity, which is amazing for the driving experience and amazing for traction and amazing for weight movement. But there's a ton of grip getting generated. I mean, you have to picture this weight just pulling the car down to the ground. And I was just like letting it float, and it just gone. And just one of those driving dynamics of this vehicle that I had not gotten comfortable with at that moment. I hadn't had a ton of drive time, and every time I drove it was either for a video or, testing. And, it's not like we just go play in it, So anyway, I almost destroyed a unicorn at a far, far away place.
In a fantasy land.
But it couldn't have happened at a better place, because one thing that you should know about islands is that they are so resourceful, because they're forced to be, because they don't get everything. Like, we can just run to Home Depot and, whatever. I got, I'm in Concord. I can get any piece of fancy metal I want here in like an hour, But there, it's like whatever's laying around. But the mindset and the ingenuity of like the locals and them wanting to help us, the story of
hustle.
There's
another. There it is. The hustle.
Yeah. There's a ton of hustle, and we got it done, and we made the video. So make sure you guys check out our Faroe Island video. Do you know the name of it? I don't even remember the name of it.
I'm trying to remember. I was gonna look it up, but that was your job.
If you just look up Maki Faroe Islands, it'll come up.
Yeah, no, for sure. What's your relationship been with EV? You talk about obviously Ford and all these other things, but what other fun things have you been exposed to in the EV world? And also, what was the biggest reservation or hesitation you had into going from ICE to EV? Like, you're like, I don't know if it's gonna deliver this or it's gonna deliver that. Like,
so for me, I had an electric drift cart. Fun. Okay. I have a one wheel, and of course we have scooters.
Yeah.
I don't have, but what's that bike Chelsea has? The electric bike.
The cake? Does he have a cake?
No. The dirt bike.
I don't know which one he has.
Starts with an S. Suron.
Yeah. Oh, Suron bike. Yeah.
Dude, that thing rips. And then I've been exposed to, I rented an electric mountain bike in Moab, which I'm about to get a Specialized there. I rented a Specialized. I'm like, fell in love with it. So really? I'm looking at which one I want to get. But so so I mean, for me, like, I wasn't really a tough sell on it, like, I hear all like these car guys that are just like, oh, EV. I'm like, what? Like, I wasn't a tough sell. I would say the only thing that I had a little bit of, and I think it's good to talk about, is range anxiety. people and it is, I didn't know what it was. I heard people talk about it. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you look at the thing, it tells you how much range you have and you drive. Like, I don't get the big deal about it. Like, it tells you everything. And like, it plans your trip for you. Like, if you want to go here, but you're going to need a charge in the middle, it tells you where to stop and charge. Like, I don't get it. But then after driving the car, I did find myself always kind of looking at the gauge of being like, okay, you got this many miles and that many miles. And I'm like, ooh, am I getting my full braking regen in? And like, it's like, it starts to be kind of like a subconscious thing. But then I was like, oh, that's what range anxiety is. And like, I don't need to do this because I have plenty of miles. I know where I'm going. So like, once I got over that, it was like, no, like it's just
we,
a
we
normal
we deal
car.
with that. We deal with that if we're in the middle of the desert and we have a fuel like petrol fueled machine. You're like, oh, I'm at Zizix Road. Am I going to make it into Vegas? Like, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
obviously Vegas, there's more gas stations out there, but I know that some people have been left stranded out there before, but it's proper planning like anything, and
Oh, it does it
that is a
for
big
you.
thing.
It
What's
does it
that?
for you. You don't even
I
have to
know.
plan. It does it for you. You just put it in. You put it in where you're going, and it's like, okay, you're going to need a charge here. Here's your options. Like, it does. It's so easy, but it's different. So I understand people that hearing range anxiety, but like, it's your choice to make it really a thing or not, because it's no different than having a gas tank. Like you said, it's like, I got to
Yeah.
stop at a gas station, So, um, so for me, it wasn't a tough sell. Like, there's nothing I don't like. I just did my 5,000 mile checkup, or no, 5,000 mile service. I did it at 7,000 miles. Guess what my 5,000 mile service was
I
in
don't
the
know.
Mach-E? Just take a
I don't
guess.
know.
You
Like
don't
how
know.
much?
No, like what sure. How much did it cost me to do my 5,000 mile service?
Well, you got a complimentary, but I would say like normally, like, I don't know, it's like probably $250 or something.
No,
200 bucks.
it's a bottle of windshield wiper fluid. For real. For real.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
just, you're
I did
good.
it at the local AutoZone. I called the Ford dealer. I'm like, hey, I'm due for my 5,000 mile. What's the deal? They're like, you just come in. We're gonna fill it up with windshield wiper fluid. I'm like, what? Yeah, you can do it yourself. It won't void the warranty or anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that myself. So yeah, I mean, like, like, again, I'm not like, it's just hard not to like. It's hard not to like it.
Ultra 4, you're racing that. You and Lauren Healy, your teammate, you guys have, just really made a name for yourself with the Fun Haver, off-road team and what you're doing there. Is there an EV opportunity there? Can we, and again, that Ford Mach-E rally car at Goodwood that just got debuted.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't do well at Hammers,
I know
but
that.
uh, um, it would do good on a rally course, though. That thing is going to be so fun. I've been in the loop on that a bit, and I need to go drive it. That thing will rip on like fire roads and stuff. I'm
Yeah, like
excited to feel what
like
they did.
WRC New Zealand, those big banks, those
Uh,
rollers.
I'm excited to feel what they've done with the traction control and stuff on that. But yeah, we have done some EV studies for Hammers. Um, in that sport, EV would be absolutely superior. The challenge that we have right now is, and frankly, EV will be superior everywhere in motorsport
Mm,
once you can get the power to weight ratio of the powertrain equal to internal combustion.
mm.
So we're close. Like, it's very close, and especially in Formula Drift, it's very close. But as technology evolves, the weight of these things and battery technologies and their capabilities and capacities are all going to get better. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time you know, to where the resources become as plentiful as going and, buying a forged piston from Mala,
Yep.
or a way better than, stock air filter from K&N, like, this stuff just needs to get, more and more people need to be using it and testing it. And that's when the products will continue to come to market. And, we're early stages. And right now, you're seeing some of the outliers of pushing the envelope by way of, fire and cars burning down. But that's what it takes to get to the next level. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah.
And, for me personally, by no means am I, not going to continue racing, internal combustion, 9,000 RPM, 1,300 horsepower, tire shredding Mustang. But you're damn right. I'm going to dabble and explore and educate and learn and fun have with EV, because it's here, and the options are endless right now, for where we can go with it. And so it's exciting. And I really wish that more people would adapt that mindset instead of being so combative. And I think, I really think people are more being combative against like what is perceived to be a political agenda versus just the, hey, there's a car that's powered by electric. Like, I feel like people are kind of feel like they're being forced into something. And that's what I think also a lot of the rebellion is. I don't feel that. I don't feel the force. But I think a lot of people are. And I think that's why they're like, oh no, I'm out.
Yeah. No, it's great. And that's a great point to kind of end on, is deduce your own theory, because it's not, don't think that, or I don't know, there's something underneath there. Don't think that it's all meant for evil. And I think that, RTRE is definitely going to be a division of yours, because, you have your boys that you want to develop, and they're already playing with Hot Wheels, your Hot Wheels specifically, and not exclusively, but, other ones. But you've done such a good job of being a hustler, being a pioneer, being a champion, and obviously being a great friend of mine and a great friend of a lot of different people. And I love what you're doing. Any other thoughts on like EV or expectations of things that maybe I didn't ask you that you kind of want to let people know? Electrify and Vaughn and what you got.
I think it's really cool that these Electrify events are going on. I think that, I think it's amazing. Ford's obviously at a big forefront of that, and having our team campaign the Mach-E 1400 out there is really cool. But it's needed. Like, this is how you engage people, because right now it's either like you're either in the know and you know what's up, or you're just hearsaying, and the hearsay can go either way. Mm-hmm. So to your point, it's like, choose your own adventure and experience it the way that you want to experience it, not others. Because I've yet to meet one person that has had a bad perspective of electrification or electric vehicles that is given a chance and driven my car or another car, not come back to me and been like, oh, damn. Yeah. What? So again, not a replacement. I want to confirm that I wear gasoline cologne. Okay. All right. I got burnt rubber smell, and I got VP 116. This is how I live. But I really am excited, and I really hope that people give it a chance. And the opportunities right now in this market, there's not enough people. It's like all the kids getting out of school that are like, oh, I want to get in automotive, I want to get in motorsport, I want to do this. Like, the EV space and software space right now for cars is just, they can't get enough people. Yeah. You'll never not have a job.
Yeah.
And you get to like shape the future. So like, please, fun havers, get into software and electrification so that you can continue to make it freaking cool. Because if the cool people aren't on the ground floor, 10 years from now, when everyone's buying used electric cars to have fun, it's going to be harder to break into them. So make them cool. Make them cool to start.
Well, I mean, you have the electronic drift brake in the all-new Ford Mustang. I mean, right. That's like there's application right there. And again, kudos to you. You've done such a great job, man. Thank you so much for being on Electrify, and really look forward to seeing you Formula Drift, seeing you at Ultra 4, seeing you. I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll be everywhere. Thanks for having me, and enjoy, friends. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, that's right. Vaughn Gittin Jr., thank you so much for being here on Electrify. Again, you can check him out on, just look him up, VAUGHNGITTIN Jr. That's right. Crab cakes, football, drifting, and EV. That's what Maryland does.
That's it. All right, y'all. Much love. Thank you, my friend. Later.
Thanks for listening to the Electrify podcast, brought to you by the creators of Electrify Expo. Be sure to catch full video episodes on YouTube at Electrify TV and follow along on social media for daily clips and more.